Greetings, my name is Christy Miller and I'm a 37-year veteran English teacher. I've been thinking that maybe I might retire in about 5 years or so, and instead of just closing up the file cabinets, I really do have a passion to share with other English teachers, maybe some new English teachers, some ideas that have worked in my classroom. I throw out the things that don't work and keep the things that do. So I'd love to make a series of videos that share with English teachers some ideas to use in their classrooms. So this is the first, and I would like to share with you how to teach prepositional phrases. So the first thing to note is that if you give your students a list of 60 prepositional phrases and say, go home and memorize them, you may not be the most popular teacher on the block. So we come up with a fun way to teach prepositions. You see, prepositions show relationship. They show who with, where, when, why, how, all of that. And so if we can create a picture of this showing relationship, it's going to help them memorize them without having to sit there and memorize them. And so I have them create a preposition mountain. I give them an 11 by 17 piece of paper, and then I have them create a mountain, and I'm going to show you mine, but I'm not a good artist. So probably that works for me, because if I was a good artist, I might intimidate some of my students. But this way my students say, oh, well, at least it's better than Mrs. Miller's mountain. So I create a mountain on this piece of paper. You can see it's not very fancy. But now I'm going to take the 60 prepositions one by one and in small print, and I'm going to come up with some way that they will relate to this mountain. So they could be on the mountain. So I put a little stick figure up here, and I put the prepositional phrase on the mountain. A prepositional phrase starts with a preposition, on, and ends with a noun, mountain. I also have them put parentheses on either side of the prepositional phrase, because later on I'm going to use that when I teach them how to identify them in sentences. So I've got this little stick figure. I can add a cabin, I can add a helicopter, a sunshine, I can add a ranger, and he can say regarding the bears, or trees, or rain and say despite the rain. They can add a creek and put a boat going across it. They can add a cave with a bear in it inside the mountain, and a cabin that says nearby the mountain, or nearby the cabin. They can create anything they want to. I'm not going to show you a helicopter because I can't draw a helicopter, but some of my students do a really good job with that. And they can get creative. Some of them put stickers, some of them color. The main thing is they have to fit 60 on this page. So they have to write small, and their pictures cannot be too big. And usually you want one little drawing for each of the prepositions, but sometimes you can do a couple of prepositional phrases for one picture. In the trees, and despite the rain, or something like that. One thing I like to do is I like to show two kids, of course stick figures, climbing up the mountain, one with a backpack and one without a backpack. So we can add all sorts of things to this preposition mountain. Let me show you an example of one of my students' prepositions mountains, and I'm hoping that you can see it. But you can see how many he has to fit. There's a sunshine, there's some mountains that are smiling, there's a chairlift, it's a helicopter. They even do the helicopter. All sorts of things are included in this preposition mountain. They added some color, they added a creek, some trees. You can add animals like deer and bear and mice and birds. Anything to create this mountain, but all 60 have to fit on this mountain. Now, the reason I teach prepositions first when I teach parts of speech, first of all, in 4th grade, I'm assuming that they know subject and verb, adjectives and adverbs. So now we're going to go to prepositional phrases, and it helps them start sentences. It also helps them identify subjects and verbs. If they have to see if the subject and the verb matches, then there's so many nouns in a sentence that if they get rid of the prepositional phrases, that noun in that prepositional phrase will never be the subject of a sentence. You will never find a subject and a verb inside a prepositional phrase. And so that means if you eliminate the prepositional phrases in a sentence, it's easier for you to find the subject and the verb. But first, they need to be able to identify them. And so that's why I have them do a preposition mountain. They could do an underwater mountain with mermaids. They can do many, many different peaks. They could do an anthill. One person had a really fun time doing an anthill. They could do a ski mountain with chairlifts. They could do all kinds of fun things with their mountain as long as they can put the prepositional phrases on the mountain. Now, they do not put the whole sentence. They might think the whole sentence, but they don't put the whole sentence. They just put the prepositional phrase, which starts with a preposition and ends with a noun. So that is the first video I'm making for you to show you how to teach prepositional phrases. I do publish a lot of my things on a website called Teachers Pay Teachers. And that way you can print off these instructions and you can print off some examples and some sentences for them to be able to find the prepositional phrases. And you can find that on teacherspayteachers.com, and you put in Christie Miller, Christie Miller, the Learning Coach. There are a couple Christie Millers, so you have to put the Learning Coach. And that'll show you the various things that I've published on this page, and it'll take you to the prepositions packet that I create for my students that I shared on Teachers Pay Teachers. So it's been great to be with you. Hopefully this has been helpful. Thank you.